Back now with live coverage of the George Zimmerman murder trial, a case that's playing out all over the country, including the White House briefing room.
Is the president watching this trial, and does he have any concerns as to what the response might be once it's come to its conclusion?
Look, I think that the president, as you know, does not spend a lot of time watching television during the day, but you know, his comments on that are you know, what they were, but we're not going to say anything from here in the midst of a trial of that nature.
Not going to say anything. Well, that wasn't the case last year when shortly after Trayvon Martin's death, the president said this.
I can only imagine what these parents are going through. And when I think about this boy, I think about my own kids. My main message is to the parents of Trayvon Martin. You know, if I had a son, he'd look like Trayvon.
Joining us now with reaction from Sanford, Florida, is Fox News host Judge Jeanine Pirro. And Judge Pirro, I know you've been covering and covering every angle of this case from beginning to end, and it's wrapped up. The jury's out, coming back tomorrow. But when you hear about all these claims that we're not going to get into politics, there's nothing political about this, and we're not going to worry about race. It's not racial now. That doesn't really play. And Judge, I don't know if you saw Jesse Jackson's tweet. I think we have it. We'll show our viewers what he tweeted about this trial. He said, if Zimmerman is not convicted, avoid violence because it only leads to more tragedy. Self-destruction is not the road to reconstruction. Compare this, Judge, to what Jesse Jackson said last year at a big rally, about 1,600 people at a church. Let's listen.
If it's just a moment, we demonstrate and we go home. If it's a movement, we go to war. There's power in the innocent blood. There's power in Trayvon's blood. He has more power today than he had a month ago.
We go to war, Judge. The power and the blood of Trayvon Martin. He said he's a martyr. What's your take of that part of this element of race and racism and so forth?
You know, Laura, so many people have tried to make this case about race. People come into every trial or every conflict with a preconceived notion of how they feel and how things should work out. Here's the bottom line. If Jesse Jackson was trying to incite people, the Reverend Jesse Jackson last year, we at least should give him benefit at this point, a year later, for saying, you know what, whatever the verdict is, let's not riot, let's not have a problem. Is it credible? I have no reason to believe it isn't credible. But Laura, what I think is even more stunning is when Jay Carney says, well, you know, the president really isn't watching this case. Wait a minute, this is the same president who heard about Fast and Furious by watching the news in 2011. He heard about the IRS targeting conservative groups by watching the news this year. And yet the president got involved in a local case that he had absolutely no involvement in. It was not a national issue because of the race issue, and he was in the middle of a campaign, a contentious campaign for president. So what you've got here is people sometimes talking out of both sides of their mouths. I have to give people the benefit of the doubt and say the president knew he made a mistake. Jesse Jackson knew he made a mistake. Let's just go with the evidence. We had our day in court.
Yeah. Judge, what I think happened is this case fell apart. Okay, what I think this happened is that they tried to make this out. This out of control white guy, this vigilante, was targeting this black kid. And look, he might be found guilty, right? But he happens to be half Hispanic. He happens to have mentored African American kids. He happened to have taken a black woman to a prom, I guess. He has no history of racial, hate mongering. And I think that whole narrative fell apart badly. And I think they couldn't do anything else.
Laura, what's interesting is that the prosecutor didn't buy into the racial narrative. The prosecutor bought into the narrative of ill will, spite, and evil, although I don't think they proved it at all under any view of the evidence, as someone who had profiled Trayvon as a criminal, not the racial profiling in terms of, Trayvon himself and color. So at the end of the day, Laura, I agree with you. The prosecution did not prove that race was was an issue in this case. They did not prove racial hatred. They did not prove murder in the second degree. I think the bigger question is, did the prosecutor succumb to political incitement to over-indict in this case? But then again, we have to wait and see, and I sit outside the courthouse waiting for the verdict like everyone else.
Hey, Judge, just very briefly, your take on Judge Nelson, her demeanor, her fairness, was she objective?
Well, look, you know, there are times when judges lose their temper, all right? There are times when lawyers keep talking and talking, and as this judge said, you know what? You've made your record. You've got the history. I've got a sequestered jury. It's time to leave. You don't, as a defense attorney, when I'm as a judge getting up to leave, keep yelling at me. Are you kidding? Most judges in New York would have held this guy in contempt. So I truly believe that this judge was doing everything she could to move the case. I thought she was objective. But at the end of the day, I mean, the jurors are the ones who will tell us whether or not they got a bad vibe from this judge.
And a Jeb Bush appointee she was. That's just a little fun fact. Judge Pirro, thanks so much.